What's up, y'all, and welcome into the Jack Vita Show. I am your host, as always, Jack Vita. We are here on the Tuesday after the National League Division Series. The American League Division Series is wrapping up. We have a big game today between the Guardians and the Yankees. The winner will go on to play the Astros in the ALCS. Our National League Championship Series is set tomorrow. We're going to have an in-depth preview. We'll go a little deeper on previewing these series, talking a little bit more from the weekend. Today, we're doing something else, though. We're going to do something a little more fun. I mean, it's always fun on this show. You know how it is. But today is something special. We've got Stephenie LaGrossa Kendrick, my Italian cousin Stephenie, back on the show. Welcome back, Stephenie.
Thanks for having me, Jack. I love being here.
And we've got, I was just thinking, this is probably the first time you've ever made a media appearance where you have not talked any reality TV.
Yeah, maybe. Going? No, I'm just kidding. Just setting records all over the place, huh?
Yeah, you ever get tired of answering the same questions?
I mean, no, not really, because the more I answer, sometimes other things come up. So.
And you haven't overexposed yourself either. Like you were in retirement and you came back. So
yeah, and I've had a long break, so now I'm back out there. So I gotta make everybody remember me again.
Well, of course, everyone on this show is very familiar with you because we've had you on a few times before. She recently competed on Snake in the Grass on USA Network, and of course, 3-time Survivor star, fan favorite. Survivor Guatemala runner-up. And yeah, so if you guys are interested in our conversations about reality TV, go back and check out those other episodes because we've done a lot. We've talked about a lot, and we're going to do more in the future. So you guys are not going to want to miss that. But today, as I mentioned, we're doing something a little different. So Stephenie's husband, Kyle Kendrick, was a member of the 2008 Philadelphia Phillies. He was there for pretty much that whole golden era of Phillies baseball between 2007 and 2011, where they won 5 straight division titles. They won several playoff series. Like I said, they won a World Series. They got to the World Series the next year. And Stephenie was along for the ride for most of the way. Is that right, Stephenie?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny, like just being back there this year, now 11 years later, since they've been in the playoffs. I'm like, my gosh, I can't believe it's been 11 years. I felt like when I was dating Kyle and then engaged to Kyle and then married Kyle, like, and this is so horrible to say, like, we just expected it because they made playoffs every year. Like there was, Red October every year. So crazy that is not a normal thing. Like teams don't just normally make it automatically. And we were spoiled. Those teams were spoiled. I mean, those guys, they were good though. They had a good bond and they had a good thing going. But it's been 11 years. I can't believe it. So we were really fortunate to actually be in town and not just have to fly up there just for that, and get to experience that. And then of all things, the game that they actually clinched to move on. So that was like incredible.
So Stephenie was on the scene on Saturday when they clinched. They won Game 4 of the National League Division Series, beating their division rival, the Atlanta Braves, which had to add to the sweetness of it. And Stephenie was our Jack Vita Show reporter that we sent out there on the scene. So she was there to cover it for us.
That's right. I was reporting back as best I could, with my expertise and knowledge of baseball, while I'm chasing 3 kids around, mainly a 3-year-old who's exhausted from a wedding that is for. But it was just incredible. And it was like no other. And there was a couple guys there from the 08 team in the suite with us that we haven't seen in a while. And they
who was there?
So Shane Victorino was there.
Flying Hawaiian
was there. Brett Myers was there. And Pat Burrell was there.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Ben Revere was also there. I don't think he was on that 08 team, but he was later.
Yeah, he was really fast
in Kyle's career. And what a nice guy. I mean, they're all such nice guys. And they all looked great, but it was just nice seeing them again and seeing their wives and just catching up kind of like the old times. Now, of course, I was the only one that had the 3 kids. All them came kidless. So they were ready to party. And I was like, I'm ready to party too, but I have 3 kids I have to watch. So Kyle was very helpful, obviously. He's a really good dad, so it worked out.
So how does this work? Do you guys, being alumni basically of the Phillies, can you put in a ticket request and they say, we got you guys? Is that how this goes?
So not really. When they were playing in St. Louis, we had asked for some tickets and we couldn't get any. And it wasn't for us, it was for friends of ours, and we just couldn't get any. I mean, these games, there's only so many tickets available, and once they're sold out, they're sold out. So our really good friend Debbie, who works for the Phillies and has been there forever, I mean, she was telling me if they win the World Series, this will be like her 4th or 5th ring. It's like crazy. Or 3rd, no, I think like 4th ring. She was naming them all. Went very early on. She was part-time and she got a ring.
Well, the Phillies have only won 2 championships so far.
Ever?
Yeah, 1980 and 2008.
Oh, they didn't win in 93. So it'll be her 3rd ring. That's what
maybe the amount, it could be like this would be her 5th World Series that the team would play in, because 09
rings for the NLDS. No, NLCS. So
it would be so this would be the 5th time they've won the National League pennant since 2000 or 1980. Because actually, no, I'm sorry, they won in 83 too. In terms of they won the pennant in 1980, 1983, 1993, 2008, 2009.
Yeah,
they've won 5 pennants, 2 World Series.
Okay, so this will probably be her 5th pennant ring, is what I think she meant, and then maybe her 3rd World Series ring. Like, it's incredible. But anyway, Debbie Nacito, she's amazing. She texted Kyle out of nowhere and said, are you guys going to happen to be in town on this date? Because a couple of the alumni are coming. We'd love to have you. And I love Debbie. We share a birthday. She's a Delco girl. I'm a Delco girl. And he said, actually, we are going to be in town because Steph's brother's getting married, and it's a Friday night wedding, not a Saturday. So we're booked to fly out Saturday. So I'm like, you know what? Like, our kids, Kyle Jr. and Sophia especially, the bigger ones, would love to see that. So we switched everything. We were able to be there. And I mean, we were fortunate enough, we were in a suite. And we got to see them, all the families on the field. I mean, I remember doing that. But my kids have never seen that, not even really on TV. And if it is, it's so late at night, like they're in bed. So my son was just like hanging over the railing watching. I might have a picture of it. He's like, Mom, when do I get to go down there? And I'm like, you don't. Like, Daddy's not on that team. That's their children are down there. He loves Bryce Harper. So he's like, but I want to go meet Bryce. I'm like, Kyle, that's not how it works. Watch. And so tickets, we're fortunate enough. Yes, we can get them, but it's not a guarantee. I mean, nothing's a guarantee. Like, Ryan Howard's coming in next series and a couple other guys are coming back. And a few wives have texted, are you coming back? And we can't come back now for this one. But we have talked about if they go to the World Series, we might come back for that. And now we're telling our kids it's just going to be Kyle and I, because that's going to be a party. They're not coming. They're like, that's not fair. And I'm like, oh, you have no idea how lucky you are that you were even there for that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Sounds like a great time. Did anyone recognize you guys? Did any fans see you and want to get a picture?
A ton of people recognized Kyle, and he got pictures with a ton of people. And then a bunch of people recognized me because, see, I'm from there. So when he and I first started dating, Survivor at the time, and here we go talking about reality TV, we weren't,
Hey, I didn't ask you about it.
You did not.
Yeah.
A little fresher then. Do you know what I mean? Because it hadn't been that long. So yeah, a bunch of people. I had a lot of family members there. I had probably 6 people that were at the wedding the night before with us related to my family that were actually at the game. So the big talk, at the wedding was, is anybody going to the game tomorrow? And Kyle brought his World Series ring to the wedding because he brought it up for the weekend. He never brings it out. And so a lot of people got to see, hold it and took pictures with it and stuff. And that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So yeah, you mentioned the freshness of it. That was 2005 that you were the first time you were on Survivor. And in addition to, and here we go again talking about Survivor, but
you brought it up this time.
I did. But I was going off something you said. You brought it up.
Sure.
I'm just continuing the conversation like a good host.
How would I be recognized?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. That was my fault. Well, you did the stuff with the Flyers too, though, back then.
Because I was on Survivor.
It's true. Yeah.
I mean, I was a farm rep. I was not a broadcaster. I never studied that. I'm not, that was not my degree. But yeah, I mean, It was really cool being back early on. My daughter, both girls kind of just wanted to stay in the suite because they were up high. They could see everything. My son's like, let's go. Like, he was dying to get down on the concourse and just walk around because the energy is like nothing, no other. And of course, you're walking around and the Eagles were playing the night after.
Yeah.
So people are doing the Eagles chant. He's like, Mom, what are they? I'm like, yep, they're doing that's the Eagles chant. Tomorrow night they're playing, the Cowboys. And Kyle, he was telling Kyle Sr. and Kyle's like, I never got that. I'd be like on the mound and, we'd be losing and they would start E-A-G. He's like, I thought that was so rude. And I was like, well, they were bored of you and they were moving on to the next thing. He's like, oh my, I'm like, listen, we are from Philadelphia. We are passionate about our sport.
That's hilarious. Yeah, and I mentioned the Flyers thing for those who are probably wondering. Stephenie worked as the in-arena host for the Philadelphia Flyers. Probably, if I had to guess, probably what, 05 to 06 or 06 to 07, something like that.
07.
So after Guatemala.
Yes. Yeah. Right after Guatemala, for the other one, Heroes Villains. And then it was even before I met Kyle.
Well, Heroes Villains was later then, so because that was 2010 when that aired.
Heroes Villains was 09. I don't know.
Filmed it in 09, aired in 2010.
And I met Kyle in 08, the very beginning of 08.
So you told the story before of how you guys met on this show. Can you give the short version of it for those who may not have heard that episode?
Yes. So in 07, after I came off the first two Survivors, my brother called me and said, hey, I had gotten not fired, but politely not asked back to be a pharmaceutical rep because I quit twice in a row to go on reality TV. And they said, are you going to quit again? And I said, absolutely not. And then of course I did because Survivor called and it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. So I was banned from the pharmaceutical industry. I was working for a radio station in Philadelphia doing sales. And my brother said, I'm going to buy a restaurant. Do you want to take some of your Survivor winnings and buy a restaurant? And I was newly single. So I was like, yeah, what the heck? Why not? And it was a hole in the wall bar that had the best outdoor seating, and a lot of athletes would come in because nobody bothered them there. And it was a Spanish tapas restaurant, great food, great, just really fun nights. And I kind of guest bartended there. My job was to bring people in and then make sure all my friends that came in didn't bother like the athletes. And which they didn't. And that's why the athletes all loved coming in. Like nobody wanted pictures with them or autographs unless the athletes like initiated it. So Kyle came in a couple times. Now I hadn't met almost every athlete in Philadelphia, all the sports teams. So I know what those athletes are all about at this point, especially the young single ones. So Kyle came in and asked me on a date. First, we took a picture together and he said, can you text that to me? And I said, no, I'm not giving my number. And he's like, okay, can you email it to me? How am I going to get it? So like a dummy, I emailed to him. I don't know what I was thinking. And he kept asking me out. And I said, you know what? I'm 26 years old. You're 22. Like, this is not going to work. I mean, like I am older. I graduated college. You're a baby. Like a baby, like didn't even go to college. And if he was, he'd still be in college. I'm like, unless you're an athlete. He's like, please, just one date. So I'm like, fine, one date. I mean, this is after he asked me like a million times. One date, my restaurant, I'm paying. If I don't like you, you're leaving. And we sat at like a high top in the middle of the restaurant. It was nothing romantic about it. There were no corner booth or anything like that. And he was just the nicest guy. And I was like, darn it. So, that was it. We ate, we hung out, he left. I did give him my phone number, and then he asked me on a real date. I think we went to Capitol Grill, and then the rest is history. Started dating, and then started dating pretty serious that year. He took me on the float for the World Series parade in 08 that year, and then asked me to come home with him for the off season, which I was like, I can't right now, but maybe I can meet you out there for a little bit. So that was it. We did. And then 09, he got sent down to Instructs, I think it was. and he was stuck in Florida, and he went to my parents, and that's when he asked my dad permission to marry me. And then we didn't get married until we were engaged all 09, most of 2010 and 2010. And then we got married at the end of the 2010 season.
And you guys have had such a great marriage and relationship, really. If you guys met 15 years ago and you're still together, and there are a lot of athlete marriages that don't work out. What do you think the key is to making something work like that?
You know what? It's not easy, especially with athletes, because their life and their career consumes them. And for a lot of athletes, it's what defines them. And when their careers end, they have a really hard time adjusting, because they're like, but I was a baseball player, I was a football player, I was a hockey player. That's who I was. A lot of them don't have college degrees. They got drafted right out of high school, like Kyle. So it's hard for them to find their way. And a lot of wives, actually, if you look at the wives and the personality of the guys are more quiet and reserved. And the wives are more of like the outgoing, the type A, have a college degree, which is why I think they're attracted to us. And also why I think we work, because if there were two of me, it wouldn't work. If there were five, it wouldn't work. You know what I mean? So, and I always told Kyle, and not that I'm like trying to be selfish in any way, like I dropped, because I had a career before him, and then I had just a regular career, and then I had a reality television type of a career, and I stopped it all and kind of gave it all up to be his wife, and then to have children and to be a mom. And I always told him, like, when you're done playing, and if we're in a point in our life and something comes my way that's a good fit for our family, I'm going to pursue it again. And we always kind of had that understanding and, open, honest communication about that. And he's not jealous. Like a lot of guys, they have to be the show, or a lot of wives, they want to be the show. And the two of us, we're just not really jealous people. Like, I let him do his thing when he wants to do it. He lets me do mine when I want to do it. And there's not many questions asked, because we trust each other. And honestly, I think that is the key to our relationship. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. Do I nag on him about certain things? Sure. He doesn't really nag on me. But I'm kind of like, you've been out of baseball for this long, it's time for you to do something. The kid, so he scouted for the Rays all last year, and he really liked that. So he's got that experience. And I think that's he's been offered coaching positions. He doesn't really want to coach right now, because you're gone like a player. He likes being around and coaching my son. He likes seeing my daughter play volleyball and their activities. He likes seeing the little one at her program. So
and that's probably there, Stephenie. I think that's a big key probably too, is having a father who's very present in the home, in the lives of the kids and in the wife.
It's very important, because honestly, when he played, and now the kids were young. I mean, Sophia was 4 or 5 when he stopped playing, and Kyle Jr. was 2. So it was like perfect though, because they weren't into sports yet. Now is when a father being present is very important. Exactly right. But he was never even around in the younger years. Like Sloan, our 3, almost 4-year-old. I mean, he is her baby. He's her baby and she's his baby, because he never was around for the little ones. I mean, even when he was like home, he wasn't home. So it's funny. We when we were driving to the game Saturday, Junior asked, so it was 12 o'clock. The game was at 2. He said, you think the guys are already at the field? And Kyle goes, yeah, it's a 2 o'clock game. Those guys have been there since 8, 9 o'clock. And they're like, what? So he's like, what are they doing? And he's like, they're eating, they're mentally preparing, they're working out, they're stretching, they're icing, whatever they got to do to prepare. That's what they're doing. And I said, see, Sophia, even when Daddy was home for like a 2-week homestand, he was at the field. And then when he was away on a 2-week road trip, he was gone. So like 9 months out of the year, I mean, and I'm not complaining, we are blessed with a beautiful life because of the great career he had. But it's a hard life, and you need a strong woman, I think, as a wife and a mother, for that life. And a lot of players do get divorced during, and a lot do after, because I think a lot of players are still in the mindset, I'm the player and it's all about me. And the wives are like, no, you're now a father, and I need a husband and a father. And so I think that's where, unfortunately, and I have very good friends that are getting divorced, and it's really sad because there's children involved. And it's like, this is the time where you're supposed to come together, and finally daddy's home, and now we're going to separate. So it's heartbreaking, but you know what? If it's not meant to be, and you're young enough where you can move on, and I am divorced. I did marry somebody, and I was married for a short time and knew it wasn't right. I didn't want children with them. You're better off getting out, starting a new life, than just living in an unhealthy relationship, I think, the whole time. So anyway, I hope that answered the question. I went off.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that I was just going back to, it sounds like Kyle's a great dad and how, involved he is in the kids' lives.
He's a great dad. He's very involved. He is, and he wants to be involved. Now, he's not a great disciplinarian. Anything they want, they get. Kyle said he did all his homework. Okay, like, really? Did you check? Because he just did homework for an hour and a half that he was supposed to do all weekend because he missed it all. Cramming to get it done. He's going to go back to school tomorrow. So, he has his faults too. But
well, we all do. We're all sinners in need of grace.
I'm not perfect. It's a give and a take. That's what it is. Every relationship is a give and take, I think.
So you were on hand on Saturday to see some history. First championship series tonight. It'll be the first one they've played in since, do you remember what year it was the last time that happened?
Yeah, well, it was was it 10?
Yeah, no, very good.
Was it 10 or 11?
It was, 11 was the year that Ryan Howard hurt his Achilles and they lost to the Cardinals. That was the last year. That was the DS. They lost the DS in 11. 10
DS.
DS went to the championship series, lost to the Giants, who won the World Series.
Right.
Do you remember any of that? What it was like watching some of those games? Or do they all just kind of blur together?
So which one are we talking about? The
2010 playing the Giants in the championship series. Like, were you flying out for any of those? Were you traveling all the way to the West Coast for any of those games?
2010. Okay, so 2010 I went because
they played the Reds before that. So they were in Cincinnati, then they were in San Francisco.
And I went to the San Francisco one because we were getting married in November in Napa. And I hadn't done much for the wedding. So I figured, let me go out and I'll already be out there. And then I'll get to Napa. And that way I can do like at least the food tasting and meet with like the hair person. And we had already gone to the resort and saw that where the wedding was going to be. But I did some wedding planning while I was out there. And we didn't know how far they were going to go. And the wedding was November 13th. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting like, because we still have to go back to Philly, get all our stuff. Then we were living in Seattle at the time. Then we got to get to Seattle with all our stuff and the dogs at the time. And then, so it was like quick turnaround because I think it ended, they didn't go to the World Series that year, but they lost, right?
Lost to the Giants. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was good for you guys. Even though it was bad for the team.
Time. Yeah. Yes. So I remember that. I remember the year they lost to the Yankees at Yankee Stadium.
That was the year before that. 2009 went to 7 games, I want to say.
And I don't cry, but I felt so bad. I had like tears coming down my face. And a good friend of mine who's a huge Yankees fan, she was there and she's jumping up and down with her Yankees on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she wasn't in our section. But I met up with her afterwards and she was like in her glory. And then I remember the year that they played against the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, that was the year before that they won the World Series.
In Tampa. So I went to all of them with them. And then, of course, I remember 08.
Did you have a favorite from traveling to those? I mean, obviously, you saw a lot of ballparks. Probably traveled to some regular season games. Did you have a favorite city or ballpark to visit, or a couple?
San Fran's ballpark is amazing. I mean,
it's so cool.
It's so cool. But I remember the first time I went there, it's the summer. I brought summer clothes. No one told me. I had to go buy like gloves, a hat, a coat. what is going on? People were in sleeping bags, like full on. Cliff Lee's wife used to come with a sleeping bag and like sit and zip herself up in it and sit there like this. I'm like, that's actually smart. But why didn't anybody tell me it's like winter here in the summer and it's something with the bay air, you know, and the water's in the background? That's a gorgeous ballpark.
And it's very foggy, kind of like it feels like it just rained every day.
Well, yeah, because of the weather, like the warm and the cold coming together. In 2009, they played out there and we were engaged, and I was leaving right from, he was pitching that game to go to LA to go to Heroes Villains. So I waited for the game to be over and I gave him my ring, and then I was leaving for Survivor. But that was just a regular season game. That wasn't like a playoff game at all. And I was sitting right next to Heidi Hamels, I'll never forget. And she and I never talked to Survivor, and not to bring this back to Survivor, but I was just kind of like a wreck the whole game. I just couldn't be myself. And I was like, sorry if I seem nervous or whatever. She's like, are you all right? And I said, no, I'm leaving from this game to go on Survivor again. And she goes, are you kidding? Like, are you crazy? I'm like, no, I know it's been a couple years. And I said, I said yes, because I don't have kids yet. And now's the time. And I'll ever do it again. And she's like, where are you? I was like, I don't know where I'm going yet. Cause they don't tell you until you get like to them. They don't even tell you the location. So I'm like, yeah, I'm giving Kyle my ring and I'm leaving from here. And I'll be gone for like a month. Well, back then you were gone the whole time regardless. So that was from that San Francisco ballpark area. I also loved San Diego.
And wait, was that when she first found out that was the first time it came up that you both had been on Survivor, or did you?
No, we had both known about it, but we just never talked about it because she didn't love her experience on there. She thought she got a bad edit and things like that.
I mean, it's telling that she never played again, and I'm sure they would have loved to have her more than once.
She just kind of wasn't, although she got married pretty early. She got married before me and then married Cole right away. And then they started having kids like right away. So I don't know that she got very sick. She went into like kidney failure. So I know that she could have physically ever played that game again.
Yeah.
All problems with pregnancies, could never get pregnant, and was deathly ill all the time. And you don't know what relates back to whatever like your body went through. I mean, it was traumatic. So she and I had talked about it before, because we'd always be like, oh, how funny, 2 Survivor girls and 2 pitchers, you know, and we were exactly the same age apart. Like she was 4.5 years older than Cole, and I was 4.5 years older.
How weird.
So weird. We would go to dinner with them, and me and Cole would always like eat the same meal and drink the same thing. Kyle would always eat and the same meal and drink the same thing. And we were like, this is so weird. But yeah, I liked San Diego.
Oh, that's a great one. I love that.
Beautiful ballpark. And I know Wrigley is like awesome and all, but those seats, because I was so pregnant, were so uncomfortable. And then like
which pregnancy was this? Was this your first pregnancy? Second one?
I think it might have been the first.
So, okay. Yeah, that was before. I mean, they have the same seats pretty much. They renovated it. Wrigley is a fun park.
Change it from behind. It takes forever. Like automatic.
What was that? What's automatic?
Automatic. The scoreboard. Like
they have automatic. They have some like they've updated it, so they have some electronic scoreboards. You guys will have to come back sometime.
Yeah, no, that was like on the seats, and there were friends. We met with friends there, and it was like it was cold there too.
Well, yeah.
Boston was cool.
Fenway.
Yeah, Fenway was cool. Yankees is cool. Every time we went to the Mets, there was always the U.S. Open was going on around the same time. So that was cool. I don't know. I got to see a lot of them.
So that's one of my goals in life, is to go to every ballpark. And I've been to maybe 12 or 13. I have a rankings list somewhere. But I had a trip that I got to go on when I was in college. And I got a course credit for this, where we went to all 5 parks in the state of California. And
wow.
Yeah, I have great stories from it, but I was just thinking, because you mentioned San Diego, you mentioned San Francisco. My cousins live out in Berkeley, So they had warned me about the weather. They're like, you're going to want to at least have a sweatshirt, some sweatpants. And then, yeah, it was very cold. But that park is so cool because
So
you can see the Bay Bridge. You might be able to see the Golden Gate Bridge. And they've got the whole bay is out there, McCovey Cove. It's a huge park.
no, it's gorgeous. And then people are out there on their boats watching.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I forget, I think, there's the fries too?
Yeah, they have the that's very good. They have the Parmesan garlic fries, I think is
Oh,
what.
the fries were like incredible. Yeah, I remember the fries.
So you've tried all the food at these parks too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like to eat, so I'm not, I'm not a food, some good ballpark food. So I definitely, as soon as I was home, first thing I had was a cheesesteak too, and the sweet. They were fabulous. And the Philly pretzels, like on the corner, like in the brown bag. The guys are like 2 for $1, blah, 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 5. My kids are like, "Oh my gosh, you just order them off the street." I'm like, "Darn right I am." So good.
That's great. Hey, did you ever go to Milwaukee or the White Sox park? Probably not White Sox, unless I know Kyle was in the AL for what? He was on the Red Sox for a year, maybe.
Yeah,
Because they played way less. For those who don't remember, they played way less interleague games 10 years ago than they do now. Next year, everyone's gonna play each other.
wasn't he the opening day starter in Milwaukee for the Rockies?
Yeah, that's right. I didn't know that. I knew he was opening day starter. I didn't know they played in Milwaukee. So you
I
were
think
there
it
for that one?
was Milwaukee, and he had like an awesome game, and then a horrible rest of the season when he was at the ballpark at the
Yeah,
Rockies.
because no one can pitch at Coors Field with the
Dude,
air.
it was the
Ball
burst.
flies out.
It was the best spring training he ever came off of in his career. Ends up at the Rockies, and opening day starter, got the win, pitched fantastic, and then just had a terrible season. That was tough. That was a tough place to pitch.
Very tough. Milwaukee, though, incredible brats, great food, burgers, cheese curds. Wisconsin's a great food state too.
Oh, I love Wisconsin. I've been to Wisconsin. Yeah, I can't remember what I ate there, but I've been to Oktoberfest. I had all the bratwursts.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they've got good brats. The thing that I was gonna say though about Wrigley is it's a landmark. It's a great piece of history. It's a great place to catch a game. It's got a very fun vibe. You saw how the fans are. It's a good time.
Yeah.
But what I will say, like you mentioned, some of the stuff about the seats not being the most comfortable, the food there is not very good. Like basically, Wrigley sells itself on the Ivy, it being this historical landmark,
Right.
and then nothing else I feel like is very great about it compared to other parks where I think they have to put in a little more effort to get fans to come out.
Right. I did love our trip there though. Like we went to Gibson's Gibson's Steakhouse.
Have not been.
Phenomenal. And then we got the deep dish Chicago pizza. That was amazing.
Which one? Malnati's or Giordano's?
I can't remember.
They're both great.
Yep. Because being from Philly, Philadelphia, like we'd get some decent pizza because we're near New York. So, just that tri-state area can get some pretty good pizza too. So like I always try the pizza if it's supposed to be good wherever I go, because Florida, it's hard to get good pizza.
I think we should add that to your social media. You should do pizza reviews.
I probably should. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like the Barstool Sports guy.
Exactly. And then he could have you as a guest for one of his pizzas.
Because nobody knows better pizza or cheesesteak than me.
I believe it.
Barstool guy.
Dave Portnoy.
Dave.
Barstool guy. I like that. So Stephenie's wearing her Phillies hat that she got from the weekend. Did it feel like you had all time traveled back to what it was like 10 years ago?
It was like as soon as they handed you those rally towels, you were like, oh my gosh, it's like we never missed a beat. And we were just back in the suite, except the guys were with us and they weren't on the field. It was just crazy. And day games are different because it was beautiful. I mean, I thought it was going to be chilly. And then at one point, when you're right in the sun, it actually got warm. So you're taking your jackets off and your sweatshirts. But when they scored, and I mean, it was like
Yeah, there was Brandon Marsh hit the 3-run homer. I think it was the second inning that game.
Unbelievable. Like, just, it was like electrifying, the noise in there. And everybody has their towels, and my son was doing his towel. My kids were doing their towel. It was like so funny just for them to see that, you know?
Yeah, it's funny. Also, you mentioned feeling sort of spoiled when you first got
Yeah.
together with Kyle and got to experience all of that. And I think one thing that can happen is, for instance, that Phillies team, just the era ended so abruptly. It felt like they were going to be around for years to come.
Yeah.
2012, just really significant drop off and never could get back to where they were. And like we talked about, Ryan Howard suffered the Achilles, and that was, I mean, that's probably
Terrible.
the worst injury for anyone who isn't a pitcher in sports.
I mean, I was in the suite with Crystal watching as he was running down the third base line, and it happened. Wasn't he running down the third
Yeah,
base? Yeah, and Sophia, what year was that?
2011.
Yep, Sophia was a baby, and I had her with me, and I was just devastated for Crystal and Ryan because I knew that was pretty much career ending, or could be, and it was terrible. And he
came back and he played several more years, but he was never the same player that he was before
never
that.
right. You're just never right from that. It's just very difficult to come back from.
Yeah, it's a brutal injury, but it's funny because you said that you felt like you were spoiled. Your kids, only one of them was alive that last year. They didn't grow up with that era, because I've heard about some of these kids where they're young and their team's great and they just expect their team to be great for their whole lives. And then when they're not great anymore, they're like, what the heck? What's happening here? We're supposed to win the Super Bowl every year if I'm a Patriots fan. Like, what happened?
Right. No, it's so true. And, you take things for granted. And we were actually explaining to our kids, when daddy was on the team, there was a stretch of like a solid, 4 or 5 years where it was like they were just expected to make it to the postseason. And that's not always the case, nothing is expected in baseball. So you get spoiled, and it's kind of interesting how you have to look at things and be like, we're lucky to be here. Let's be grateful we're here. This could change next time or change in a second. And you got to be grateful for each day, basically. Trust me, we're like pounding them with do you know how lucky you are? And you would love to experience this, and your cousins would love to be here, and your uncles would love to be here.
I think that's I think that can be good parenting to say, you guys got this playoff game. You don't get to go to every playoff game. This is it. This is your treat.
If they win, can we go to the World Series? And we are like, no, you're actually probably most likely definitely not, because we don't even know if we're going.
Right.
We go away every year for our honeymoon, and that's coming up in November. So then we always go to Napa with friends. So we already have that planned. And we probably won't even, if it's too close, with the World Series to that, kind of like the wedding year. I mean, you can't do it all, and there's only so much. It's hard for us to leave the kids. They're so busy with sports. But, we can watch it as a family if that's the case. But we would love to go because, all of Kyle's buddies will be there, and I love all their wives, but we'll see. We've got to get past this round.
It starts tonight. Are you going to be watching?
I am. So my brother that got married.
Congratulations to him, by the way.
Thank you. He was my second oldest brother, and they have been together forever. So Kathy has been like part of our family forever. But, they wanted to make it official, and it was an absolutely beautiful wedding, really, even though they're older. So they weren't really even going to go on a honeymoon. And my parents have a place down here, and they're not using it. And so they're like, why don't you just go down to Florida? So they come today. So we're going to watch the game with them tonight.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, because it was the only reason we were even up there for this playoff game was because of their wedding. So it's just kind of funny how things happen. Like, it really is. So they're going to come over tonight once they get it and it gets settled, and I get through volleyball games and baseball practices and guitar lessons and dance. We'll get the kids settled. Kyle and Sophia will stay up a little bit for the game. And, yeah, we'll get our rally towels out.
Get some Wawa. Make it feel like you're in Philly.
Yeah, Oh, my kids love Wawa. I'm always like, this is from Philadelphia. See, they were born in Philadelphia, at least Sophie and Kyle. So they love going back. And then people were trying to talk us into staying for the Eagles game.
Yeah.
And we're like,
Eagles Cowboys, my gosh.
no,
What a
I know.
weekend. And they won too.
And they won. But it was just, we needed to get back. They needed to get back to school on Monday. And my daughter, the little one, has like a runny nose, and all the colds are going around. So I'm like, we got to get her back and get her purifier on and get, some Highlands cough medicine in her and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah. Well, and you guys just vacationed to Nashville and evacuated a couple weeks ago. So
that's right. So we like to travel. We really do.
You can only do so much though.
What? You can only do so much. And we're going to go back home to Philly for Thanksgiving. So they're excited about that because my parents are already up there. And they're getting older, right? And you don't know how much longer everybody's going to be together. So we're going to go up there for Thanksgiving. So we'll see them in a couple weeks. And then before that, we're going adults for our anniversary. So it's just a lot.
Yeah.
So let's just get back. We've already been on a bunch of trips. So, I mean, it's fun though. I love to travel. That's why I'm always, oh, Survivor? Oh, Snake in the Grass? Oh, the next thing? Sure. Kyle, you got this? My kids, wish me luck. Hope I win the money.
Yeah, well, I mean, without giving away your whereabouts, I do vacation in the same area that you guys live, and I know that they've brought Wawa from Philly to that area because I figured it's probably because the Phillies spring training is there. So there are probably a lot of Philly people
from Delco here. Like there's a place called Delco's. There's Wawa. There's a couple different restaurants. There's like a Philly bar that'll be packed tonight.
Oh, I think I've seen that in Clearwater.
There's one in Clearwater and there's one in the Tampa area.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely drove past one when I was like this past time. I noticed it. I was like, oh, there's a Philly bar.
And then there's that breakfast place right across from the spring training ballpark, and that guy's from Philly, and everything is like, because people don't even know what scrapple is, really.
I don't know what scrapple is myself.
The best. It's a breakfast food. I don't even know what it is. I don't know what it is, but you cook it and you like fry it and you cut it and dip it in ketchup. It's like amazing. It's like better. You know what pork roll is?
No.
Oh my gosh. Pork roll is like a breakfast ham, and you put that on like pork roll, egg, and cheese on an everything bagel with ketchup. Forget it. I mean, it's terrible. It's all terrible for you. And when I went home this past weekend, I ate all of it. So now I'm back to trying to work out and get in shape, but I hurt my knee, hurt my shoulder. I'm falling apart. I'm trying to get in shape for my next reality show that I don't know what's going on.
Amazing Race with Suri.
Yeah, exactly. For my next Amazing Race with Suri that we haven't been casted for yet, but I gotta get in shape. Jeez. But the food, you miss the food from home. So when you go home, you got to eat.
Yeah, I noticed some of the Philly stuff there. When I've been at the Cubs spring training, they have Portillo's, which is a big time. Have you heard of Portillo's?
No.
It's a big time fast food place in Chicago that's very good. Italian beef and burgers, hot dogs, all that stuff. And then the Giordano's, or no, not the Giordano's. They actually have Giordano's in Florida now, like in Orlando. Yeah. And then Lou Malnati's, they have that. I think that's the first state outside of Illinois that they ever went to was by the Cubs spring training complex. So I think there's some kind of correlation with spring training. People end up moving there. They go to spring training and they're like, oh, this is a nice area. This is a good place to retire. And
where are the Cubs? They're in Arizona?
Yeah, they've got they were in Mesa. I think they might be. Yeah, they're in Mesa still, I think. Mesa, Arizona.
All of our spring trainings have been in Florida except for one.
Which was the Rockies, probably.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Their spring training, I think they do it better than Florida does because all of the complexes are within like a half hour of each other.
Close. And here they're also spread out. See, because when Kyle was just a scout for the Rays, he had to go all over the state of Florida because those were the games he was scouting. Were at the spring training complexes.
Yeah, and the other thing I think that's kinda nice about Arizona is typically you're not getting weather rainouts, weather delays. You get more of that
Right.
in Florida.
You do, especially in the summer because those storms come in and it's like March isn't terrible though. It's not that bad. March usually the weather's really nice.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty good. It rained a couple times
um,
last time I was there in
yeah,
March.
yeah. March
So,
is our spring break, so we usually leave for like almost well, like a week and a half for skiing, and then everybody comes for spring training, so it's fun. I think my brother's coming this year. My other one of them, the one with the nephews, the one whose son was in the Little League World Series,
yeah, we're
Philip.
gonna talk to him at some point on
And
this podcast.
I was doing this week, and I said, "Hey, we would love to talk to you about your experience, at the Little League World Series. Would you want to come on?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's kind of quiet. He's a quiet little kid.
Well, that's why we need you here with me, because if
Yeah.
I'm interviewing him, he'll freeze up, but if he's got his Aunt Stephenie here to loosen him up, he'll have a fun
Yeah,
time.
we'll do it. So I'm actually going to be at his house the week of Thanksgiving. So we could try to do it then, or just we can do a Zoom
Yeah.
whenever.
We could do it we'll either do it then or maybe, like, sometime when the kids have a break from school because then we
Yeah,
can record during the day, so
yeah. I'm off the week of Thanksgiving. In fact, Saturday, him and his other little brother Nicholas were dying to go to the game with us, and we couldn't get any more tickets because we tried to get as a part of a wedding gift for my oldest brother and his new wife. I mean, it was sold out,
mm.
everything. But he was leaving the wedding the next day. He had 3 baseball games. So they play like serious baseball, those boys, Tom's River.
How have you seen youth sports change from when you were playing sports? Not
You
that
know,
long ago.
when I played and even when Kyle played, even more recent than me, because I'm older than him, but I look younger than him. But um I'm kidding. So like we just played township. We played township or we played school, and then that was it. There was none of this like club. Club is like double, triple the price. Everything's club. Club baseball, club soccer, club volleyball, and you're like club basketball. We're like, what happened to the YMCA or like your school sports? So it's different because if you don't play club, you're not even like looked at. Which my husband still calls BS on because he's just like, listen, if you're good, you're good. They're gonna find you, or you're gonna get recruited for college and you're gonna play. So my son right now only plays club and not little league because we don't want to burn him out. And Kyle coaches at the club because he does the pitching lessons. So he's able to do a couple side sports because of it. And he just took up guitar lessons, which we like. Like he doesn't need to play double
Yeah.
bass. But my brother's sons in like Tom's River, and they're older. But he's middle school, Philip. It's just a whole nother level. And Sophia's doing double volleyball right now. She does school and she does club. So it doesn't leave much room for her. She still does ride horses part-time. Like it's hard. You can't do it all. So yeah, it's very competitive. It's very cutthroat. I mean, these parents are crazy. A lot of them, they think their kids are going pro in 3rd grade. Kyle goes to games. He doesn't say 2 words, my husband. He doesn't even speak. I'm just like, whatever. Oh, you're not starting? All right. Well, obviously you didn't perform well at baseball or at practice. Too bad. Put in the work. Like,
I
you
think
got to start.
probably partly of that is because you guys both played high level sports, so you understand it probably a little better than some of these parents that are like, "I didn't get to that level, but I'm gonna make sure my kid gets to that level."
I think that's a lot of it too. Yes. And it's sad. And I saw it with Kyle Sr., just kids, guys in the big leagues. Parents live through them. And it's like, no, they are the big leaguer. You are not the big leaguer. You did not make them get here. You're not the reason they throw 95 miles an hour. You're just not. I mean, you're part of it. You've helped, but you're not like, so it's sad. And we talk about that a lot. Like we will never be those parents. We'll be happy for our children as well as they do. Or if they don't, they don't. Like find your way. I mean, we love that they play sports. We're sports people. Um, But if you're not the best on your team and if you don't go D1 or if you don't go pro, then you don't. Try to be smart and let's get a degree so that at least you can be a functioning member of society. So You know,
Well,
more
I like the music stuff too. My dad was a talented, he still is, talented guitar player. His band was on MTV in the 80s,
no,
and I think he had not like he wasn't disappointed, but he has a big passion for music. And I like listening to music, but none of his kids ever picked up an instrument and learned because we were all playing sports. And again, he's not disappointed. It's not a bummer, but I think that's a great thing too, is to learn that stuff in addition to playing sports.
really, like our kids all love music, and Kyle loves music, senior. But the fact that they want to learn music, I mean, I never learned that. I played sports. I never ever touched a piano. I don't even know how to read a note. I can't sing to hold a tune worth. I'm really not even that great of a dancer. So my kids all love music, and I'm like, okay. And it's one day a week, but they for a half hour. But it's important. It's important because it opens up the brain, I think, to a different avenue. And apparently music helps with math. So, they want to try it. So I'm gonna let them try it all, throw it all on the wall and see what sticks, basically.
Very good. Now, Stephenie, uh, the series starts tonight, National League Championship Series against the Padres. You've been to Petco Park. That's where they're playing tonight.
I know.
Before I have you give a prediction, I would like to know just general thoughts on the Phillies. I know you're not able to watch every single game, but I know you watch some. You keep in you I don't you might not know anyone on the team right now, right?
I don't know anybody on the team right now. I know of them,
Yeah.
mainly from my son, he does watch almost everything, and then his cousins. So
So, do you
real
have any favorite players, personalities on the team?
well, the big favorites seem to be this Real Muto guy. Is that how you say his name? The
Yep.
catch.
Yeah, he's Italian too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then
Sorry, what
they
was that?
Harper, Bryce
Yes.
Harper.
Yep.
So they all seem to be loving them, and they seem to have done really well in this last series. So we're gonna be rooting for them. And they like that pitcher, the Wheeler guy.
Yep.
Yeah, they like him.
Should have
Um,
won the Cy Young last year, but he finished second.
okay, okay. So, and just I think the Phillies right now they really have a good cohesive thing going, the boys, and hopefully, they saved a little now for this series. And I think they will. I think they're going to be fired up.
It definitely is a thing about just playing your best baseball at the right time. I mean, this is actually funny because this is the first year that 6 teams in each league made the postseason. They expanded it. It used to be 5 in each league.
Mm.
Phillies were team number 6, so they get
Oh,
in, punch their ticket, and I think a couple of years ago they would have been. I think 2019. I think they were team number 6 that year, so they didn't get in that year. They were just on the outs. This year they get their crack, and the Braves were the better team for six
yeah,
months of the season. And I think that is one thing that is a little unfortunate if you're a fan of. I mean, it's great for you guys, obviously, but it does stink if you have this great team. You
right.
spend a week off because they had the bye week. I think that kind of hurt them a little bit. But at the same time, they should have won. They had home field and they couldn't put the ball in play at all. The Phillies are a team that are not the greatest team defensively, but it didn't matter because the Braves were striking out so much. They weren't putting any pressure on the Phillies to make mistakes. But nonetheless, Phillies are heating up at the right time. I think
Right.
you mentioned there's a cohesiveness. They seem to enjoy going to war with each other every day, and they're heating up at the right time, playing their best baseball when it counts.
No, 100%. And like I remember people saying to me they weren't supposed to beat St. Louis. Like it was going to be tough
No,
for
they
them.
they weren't.
And I'm like, oh, really? Because I hadn't really been paying attention all year. Um, Here we are, going to the championship. So it's like, but it's kind of like I always say too, it's a little bit of luck too. It's a little bit of like, who has it going for them, who has it going on right now, and they've got it going on. So I hope they can continue.
Well, that was the case with the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Carson Wentz was playing like an MVP. He tore his ACL towards the end of the season. Nick Foles comes in, and all of a sudden they just keep surviving advance. They keep winning, and they won the
Right.
Super Bowl.
With your backup, who's like
Yeah.
not star. So you know what? You just can't count anybody out. That's what I'm saying. And you can't expect anything either. So every game is different and the games are long. I mean, just because you're up in the third inning, there's a lot of game left. So you can't give up on your teams.
Steph, do you have a prediction? 7-game series. Who's going
I
to win?
I really think they're going to win. I think they're definitely going to win, and they're going to go to the World Series. I don't think they're going to win in 4. I think it's going to go to game 5 or 6, but I think they're going to battle. I think they're ready to battle, and I think they're going to win.
We got a comment right here. I don't know if you can read this.
It was great when the Phillies beat the Cardinals.
That is from Carol Packett, and I know that she is not a fan of the Cardinals. She's not. I don't think she's pro or against the Phillies, but she definitely was pro Phillies in that series.
I'm a lot of people messaging me saying, like, now that you have, gone through the first 2 rounds, now we're rooting for the Phillies.
All right, here we go.
T-Bird's like, you know what? Your boys deserved it. They played great. I'm rooting for you.
Last year, I was doing this with T-Bird when the Braves clinched to go to the World Series. I had her on the show, and we did basically the same exact podcast. So hopefully we're doing another one of these in a couple weeks for your guys' sake.
I know, hopefully. Yes.
Okay, couple more things real quick.
Okay.
Mention the Eagles, big weekend for the Phillies. You've seen the movie Silver Linings Playbook before, right?
I think so. I know Kyle has. He's talked to me about it.
Oh my gosh, you have to watch it again. It's so good. I was going to connect it. The reason why it's so cool is because it, like, okay, so, it's Bradley Cooper, it's Jennifer Lawrence, De Niro is in it, Chris Tucker is in it. It's a great cast, okay? They follow the Philly sports teams in 2008, and the plot, it plays a role in it. They talk about the Phillies winning these playoff games. They talk about the Eagles that year. So you're gonna have to watch that one.
Oh, I never did watch it. I've heard about it.
I feel like it's such a movie that you would enjoy. I mean, it's a great movie.
Don't they have pictures or make mention of that 08 team of the guys?
I don't know if there are pictures, but they make mention and they talk about it. Like, there are scenes with De Niro and De Niro's brother in the movie, or like betting on games, and he's like talking about the Phillies, and they make a bet at the end they make a bet for the end of the movie, and it involves part of the plot, which I won't give away. But one of the things of the bet is that the Eagles will beat the Cowboys in the last game of the regular season, which they did. And that was a game that it came down to whoever wins that game goes to the playoffs. And that was the same year that the Phillies won the World Series.
That's crazy. So we'll see. I know that there's a book, I think, and they have pictures of the 08 team in the book.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah, that's awesome.
I do need to watch that. I want to watch that with the kids. That'd be awesome.
It is R-rated, though.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe screen it before. Maybe when they're a little older.
Okay.
I can give you another movie recommendation for the kids when we're off the air.
Okay.
We're running out of time. Okay. Last thing, I just want to tease what we have for tomorrow. So, 1993 Phillies. You remember that team, Stephenie, right?
I do. I know a couple guys, or knew a couple guys that were on that team.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So that was 93.
A lot of them were kind of broadcasters and stuff after.
Yeah. John Kruk.
Yep.
He was on that team. So I'm going to have Mickey Morandini from that team. You remember him, Stephenie?
I think he was the second baseman.
Very good. Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually,
I actually knew Darren Zalton very well. I have pictures with him, and I loved him. What a great guy he was. Yep. Rest his soul.
I met someone one time. I met a guy named Dalton who was named after him. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was an awesome guy. He fought hard to the end. He was amazing.
So Mickey I went to college with 2 of his sons. They're some of my best friends. He's been on this show before. I'm going to play you a little clip. This is from the last time that I had Mickey on. This was in April. No, it was in March. We were previewing the MLB season. We were talking about the NL East, and this was a little clip from our conversation about the Phillies. I think you'll get a kick out of this, Stephenie.
Okay.
This Phillies team last year made a nice little push, a little too little, too late. It was funny. I did have Kyle Kendrick's wife on this show, Stephenie, who was on Survivor, and right after Stephenie came on was when they rattled off that huge when they went 8 of 9. So maybe Stephenie needs to come back on the show in order to get the Phillies pumped up again.
Need to have her on weekly.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, that's funny.
So here we go. You came back on at the right time, and now the boys need to respond.
Hopefully I can be the good luck charm.
And while we won't be doing podcasts together weekly right now, be on the lookout for more stuff from us in the future. And I think we can give this away now, Stephenie. Stephenie is going to do an Instagram live at some point. So we'll do that together. I'll field questions for her. We'll go live on her Instagram. So be out on the lookout for that, because then we can answer more of the Survivor questions that we didn't get to today.
That's right. And Kyle Kendrick Sr. is going to come on soon too.
He needs to respond to my text first.
I know. He's the worst. Like, did you text Jack back? He's like, I don't know a day. He doesn't like to commit because he doesn't want to have to cancel. So I'm like, pick a day and time and just keep it open. Which is 1 hour. Just keep it open next week.
Next week. Yeah.
Let's
make it happen. Very good. Thank you, Stephenie. Yeah. And anyone else you can wrangle from those Phillies teams, if it's Victorino or Ryan Howard, Ruben Amaro Jr., we'll talk to anybody.
I know Ryan's going to the series this week. So they're when they come back home?
So the schedule right now, they play tonight and tomorrow in San Diego. Then they have what day is today's Tuesday? Yeah. Okay, Thursday off, and the whole weekend is in Philly.
Friday,
all
Saturday,
three.
Sunday. He'll be in Philly Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That's fine. I mean, we can do it. We can do it this winter. It doesn't matter. Anybody is. We're happy to have them. So
I know. Oh, I know. I will try to get somebody narrowed down.
Awesome. All right.
Yes.
Anything else today, Stephenie?
No. As always, thanks for having me.
Always a treat to have you on. And your social media handles are what?
I am Steph _LaGrossa Kendrick.
No, isn't it Steph _LaGrossa _Kendrick?
Kendrick. That's it. So that's Instagram. So follow me there because I've got some exciting things coming out that I haven't talked about yet that I will talk about soon. And what is it? Steph LaGrossa 38 is my Twitter.
Very good. She remembers her Twitter handle.
And then my Facebook is Steph LaGrossa Kendrick.
Stephenie LaGrossa Kendrick, I think.
Stephenie LaGrossa Kendrick. Yeah.
But also, guys, she's on Cameo. So if you want to get a Cameo shout out from a Survivor legend, she needs to start. She just got on. So she's new to the Cameo thing, but make sure you guys book her. She's affordable rate on Cameo.
I am. I'll leave some funny messages for you. Just tell me what you want.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you so much today, Stephenie.
All right, Jack. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. That concludes our conversation today with Stephenie LaGrossa Kendrick. Make sure you follow her on social media at Steph _LaGrossa _Kendrick on Instagram, and at Steph LaGrossa 38 on Twitter. She's on Cameo. Get a Cameo shout out for one of your friends this holiday season or loved ones. Hopefully your friends are your loved ones. Hopefully you love them. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to be back and we're going to go a little deeper. Today was kind of more fun, casual, just talking a little bit about ball. Tomorrow we'll get to more of the nuts and bolts and the analysis with Mickey Morandini. Mickey is going to be a really fun time, a really fun guy to chat with. I've had him on a couple times before. If you guys have questions for him, you can tweet them at me and perhaps I can get to some of those. And yeah, make sure you guys are all subscribed to the Jack Vita Show on YouTube, Facebook. Follow me on social media at Jack Vita Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be on Spotify, everywhere you get podcasts. Hit subscribe so you don't miss out on our next episode. And like Stephenie said, we're hopefully going to talk with Kyle Kendrick, the World Series champion. The first time we've ever had a pro champion of, MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL. We've never had, actually, no, Scott Pollard won a ring on the 2008 Celtics. We've never had a World Series champion on this show before. So it's going to be a good time. You guys are not going to want to miss out on any of the fun stuff that we have planned coming up soon. Okay, so until our next episode, until our conversation tomorrow, Wednesday, with Mickey Morandini, I'm Jack Vita, bringing the dates and lobsters.